I know that you will present a strategy on the Western Balkans in February, but already from Juncker's speech there was this famous year, 2025, for Serbia and Montenegro. Does this mean that they are the front runners, that they are going to be disconnected from the other hopefuls in the region?
No, I think when you were listening to President Juncker's speech, he didn't mention, so to say, front runners, but it was and it is in a paper, but this was clearly referring to the fact that these two countries, Serbia and Montenegro, are already negotiating, and this is different to other countries. But I personally avoid to make any qualifications. What counts is, so to say, the development of each of these countries, and I believe that all of them making progress towards the European perspective. Some are more advanced, others so they have still to do some homework in order to prepare the ground, but in principle I see, so to say, almost all of them on a good track. I think some work has to be done indeed in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Here I hope that very soon we receive the answers to our questionnaire, and this is also something where citizens in the country expect that their government, their political leaders have the capacity and ability to decide, to take decisions. They want a European perspective. The other countries are very much, so to say, on track, and this strategy will give quasi a coverage, the whole European perspective of all the countries in the Western Balkan, and this is important to stress. It's about a European perspective for all the countries and not only for 2 or 3.
On Serbia specifically though, and the progress there, it's obviously linked to the dialogue, which I know Mogherini is in charge of, but does it mean that when eventually Serbia becomes a member state, that that will coincide with the end of the normalization process with Kosovo?
No, the opposite. The normalization with Kosovo is a precondition to become member for Serbia.
For Kosovo, if you go for that one, we have the SAA, of course, but especially now what we have seen with the Catalonia issue and also the 5 non-recognizers, do you feel that there is a risk that Kosovo might be left behind, considering that SAA, we can't really go any further at this moment? Is there any way the Commission can sort of make sure that Kosovo isn't left on the back burner when everyone else go forward?
Look, of course, I cannot totally ignore, so to say, geostrategic or geopolitical developments. But what we can do and what we try to do and to what we are committed is to help Kosovo to prepare the ground for the future membership to the European Union by improving their legal structure, by improving their economic performance, by improving, for instance, in the case of Kosovo, very important, their revenue side in terms of the national budget, because 1/3 of the income of Kosovo is due to duty fees, which, as you know, in a single market is no longer existing. But you cannot replace from one day to the other 1/3 of a national income. So this means you have to address this at the early stage, working on that, etc. So this is my understanding how we can very concretely support Kosovo in preparing them. And as Kosovo is, for instance, part in all these negotiations, leading finally very soon to a regional economic area, this is another, so to say, proof for our strong commitment also to the European perspective of Kosovo.
Final question. Macedonia is going forward, but it's still the issue of the name issue with Greece. Is there any other way Macedonia can move forward, or does this name issue with Greece have to be solved first and foremost?
Well, I have to say that already the previous government reached out to Greece to work on, so to say, confidence-building measures. I remember I could bring together the previous foreign minister and the Greek foreign minister at, by the way, the Riga summit 2 years ago. And for the first time they were sitting together, and then some things evolved. And with the new government there's a totally new dynamic in these issues. They have immediately reached out successfully to Bulgaria. They have now signed this good neighborly relation agreement with Bulgaria in the beginning of August. And they are in very intensive talks with Greece. And I think there is some progress. Of course, by the end of the day, we need the support, the agreement by all our member states to start negotiations. But I think everybody has learned lessons after what has happened in Skopje, when after 9 years of recommendations without any response, the country was sliding away. That this should not be repeated, because we as Europeans have invested a lot to improve the situation. Now we have managed it, but now, so to say, also we have to deliver. But I understand there are some political, so to say, constraints, but like always in life, if there is a will, there is also a solution.